To all my marketers out there, you're probably spread real thin right now. I'm sure you need some help between creating content, launching campaigns, generating leads, scoring leads, nurturing leads, and a lot more stuff with leads. You barely have a moment to breathe, let alone do your best marketing. But that's where HubSpot and Breeze, its new built-in AI, come in. When you combine the power of Marketing Hub and Content Hub, you can have your best quarter, every single time. With tools that instantly remix your content, lead scoring to shine a light on potential customers, and AI-curated analytics suite for reports and KPIs. And that's all alongside co-pilots and agents to automate all of your tasks, making your life easier, getting you the results faster, and better connecting you to all your data all in one place. Doesn't that sound nice? So stop spreading yourself so thin and start making major moves with HubSpot. You can visit HubSpot.com/marketers to learn more.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's Friday, February 7th. I'm Mark Dent, here with Ben Berkley, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. All right, I've got two questions for the audience today. One, do you like buying cheap stuff on the internet from Temu and Shein? And two, do you live in America? Well, if you answered yes to both of those, I have some bad news for you. Temu and Shein's more or less tax-free shipping exemption has come to an end, and it could lead to changes for both companies and potentially higher prices for you. So we'll get to all of that, but before we do, let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. Starting off, there's yet another big tech DEI reversal. Shocker, I know. Alphabet is rolling back its diversity goals, removing language from its annual report that stated its commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Google parent company cited recent court decisions and U.S. executive orders as the reason for the change. Ben, where do you come down on this one?
I mean, the games we play, this is something that pretty much every major company that needs something from the federal government is doing right now to move a fealty. If I were Alphabet and I had a lot in the balance, like large antitrust cases or big government contracts, I'd be inclined to make the same moves to put myself in good graces of those who are making the calls. It'll be just interesting to see if these initiatives actually still continue just under a different label rather than kind of the lightning rod of DEI.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's interesting to even see like Alphabet, just a truly huge company, kowtowing a little bit. It's like only the NFL and Costco are big enough. Like those are clearly the two blue chip brands of the US because they're the ones who have not backed down at least all the way.
I mean, for now,
right.
Let's just wait until those headlines come in any day now.
Very true. Moving on to the mall, more than 100 Quicksilver, Billabong, and Volcom stores in the U.S. will permanently close after the parent company, Liberated Brands, filed for bankruptcy. R.I.P. Billabong. I think I had a Billabong shirt back in the day.
Forgive me, I'm going to be quiet for a minute. I just like thinking about this guy, Chris Foldish from my third grade class, who must just be like taking this so hard right now. I'm so sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, there's more than a few out there who are going to be shedding a tear over this. I do think Hurley still exists, so that's good.
Thank God. Okay.
All right, finally, last week we talked about Starbucks betting on its past traditions so that it could return glory to its beleaguered stores. And one of those ideas was having the baristas start using Sharpies again to actually write people's names on the cups. And they even recommended that they write some fun messages to go along with it, like have a nice day or whatever. The company secured 200,000 Sharpies in order to make this happen. But alas, the past is never like we remembered it. Employees have rebelled, according to CNN. They say the messages just feel forced and that they take too long to write.
I mean, this feels like something that I would also hate as an employee. It's a reason why I would never work at a Cold Stone Creamery and have to sing birthday songs. You just want to kind of get your job done as fast as possible. And does that create the environment that Starbucks wants? I guess not. It's hard to see this being good for business, even though it's a nice tap into nostalgia. How long does that really carry you?
Yeah, with all these changes that Starbucks is talking about, they just seem so minuscule and they have a lot to overcome. I forget what the exact number was, but I mean, most of their stores that had been around for at least, a few years were facing something like 10% almost revenue losses year to year, which I don't know that Sharpies are just going to fix that. I mean, I get it. It's trying to create this more welcoming environments. But I don't know, it's tough. And there's some people on TikTok who have been kind of pointing out that some of the messages are a little awkward.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe you should build trust with a customer and then you can write a message and it won't feel forced. Just go for the names for now.
Yeah. Also, I would just note, they're increasingly doing drive-through as a business where speed is the only thing that matters. And so, the more you make things that kind of decrease speed for your employees, feels like it's really risky.
Right. But I mean, that is, I think, what their move is. As risky as it is, I think that they want to get away from where a drive-through pickup place. They don't want that anymore because it hasn't worked for them.
Hey, everybody. I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately. It's called Nudge, hosted by Phil Agnew. It's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So have you ever noticed how the smallest changes can have the biggest impact? On Nudge, you learn simple, evidence-based tips to help you kick bad habits, get that raise, and grow a business. Every bite-sized 20-minute show comes packed with practical advice from admired entrepreneurs and behavioral scientists alike. And Nudge is fast-paced, but still insightful with real-world examples that you can actually apply. Oh, and by the way, it's the UK's fastest-growing business podcast. I was listening to an episode recently that Phil, the host, had on Harvard professor Mike Norton, and Mike convinced Phil that he had to handwrite every single one of his emails before sending them to understand what he was really trying to talk about. This process, although it sounds insane, he claims, Phil, that it made his emails 3.5 times better. You got to listen to this podcast. It's a great way to understand how email marketing can help your business. You can listen to Nudge wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, well, let's move on to the main story, though. It's been really tough to follow all the tariff news over the last week. But to sum it up briefly, the 25% tariffs that the Trump administration announced on Mexico and Canada have been postponed for at least a month. Chinese goods, on the other hand, they actually are facing additional tariffs, including the end of something known as the de minimis provision. Ben, before you started working for us, you spent 20 years, I think, as like a legal scholar.
Yes.
So why don't you break this down for us, please?
I mean, I'd also note, as someone who took Latin in high school, we're talking about a phrase de minimis, which means something of little importance, by the way. What a beautiful reprieve this is from the significant regret of not actually learning of, valuable language. So thank you to trade policy for that. And yes, this is an area that clearly I'm so well versed in. But the best way to think of de minimis is as the cheap crap provision that's nestled into our trade policy. So let's say you want to buy a $1 shirt on Shein. You probably don't want to pay the importing fees on that. And this provision was how that was ducked. This has been on the books in the U.S. since 1930. Basically allows free shipping from another country into the U.S. if the value of goods is relatively low. For the last few years, that number ticked up. It's anything up to $800. So if your goods are less than that, countries are able to kind of ship anything over without incurring any import taxes. So a really influential thing, a big part of the reason why Chinese e-commerce outfits like Temu and Shein were able to grow as quickly and as disruptively as they have.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really interesting how much this de minimis shipping has increased. According to CNN, over the last decade or so, it's gone from 140 million a year to more than 1 billion shipments. So do the math on that, and you're talking, I guess, around between 3 million and 4 million per day.
Wow.
And then to just throw in another number here, according to Reuters, Shein and Temu account for around 30% of all packages shipped into the U.S. every day under de minimis. So roughly 1 million packages from those two companies under de minimis. Other countries are still going to be able to use this, but not China. Why is this under attack, Ben?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot going on in this trade war with China. I think that it goes beyond kind of just China. This is something where critics point to this giving foreign companies a leg up on US-based retailers.
Yeah.
It introduces this endless stream of cheap goods into the market. Consumers aren't complaining clearly about the low prices, so that's part of the reason why it's continued. But yeah, the joyride is kind of stopping. I think a lot of some of the framing I've seen is that there's this idea that a lot of these packages then escape scrutiny, and then that is potentially an entry point for unsavory goods, such as drugs.
Right. And Temu and Shein, they're obviously not the only ones who are impacted by this, but they are definitely the biggest players. Temu had that big Super Bowl ad last year. They've both been really increasing their US presence. And I don't use either of them on a regular basis, but I was checking out their website earlier this week when some of this news started coming in, and I was looking, I think it was on Temu. They had like an offer of these shower drain covers, 10 of them for 76 cents. And to think that someone somewhere in the US or frankly the whole world would order something for 76 cents online and have it shipped to them. But that's what the point of Temu and Shein are. Now it's just potentially going to get a little bit more expensive. Do you think that Temu and Shein are going to be able to handle this?
So first off, you just outed yourself as someone who doesn't have 10 drains to cover. I'm very embarrassed for you. But, I think they're going to be okay is the overall thing to say here. I think they've been preparing for this quite well. Both businesses, just of note, also were founded in China, but they've like shifted corporate structure away.
Yeah.
I think Shein, it's like Singapore-based in a holding company in the British Virgin Isles, and Temu is now like legally based in Ireland. They've made moves to not be quite so devastated in all of this. I'd also just note that there's nothing that is so strong in this world as Americans' love for flimsy consumer goods.
Right.
And it's also just worth noting, this is not just a US thing. There are about 100 other countries that have similar de minimis provisions. Most just notably aren't up to this huge threshold that the US has, where it makes it extra impactful because US being at $800, EU, for comparison, comes out closer to like $150. So we're exceptional in that and also in our deep desire for spending no money.
Yes, very deep. From what I've been seeing, according to CNN, that it might lead to a 10% price hike or so is what they're suggesting. Because, whatever has to be paid on these import fees is going to be passed on to the consumer most likely. 10% is not that much. I could be wrong, but I feel like Temu and Shein are definitely way more than 10% cheaper than Amazon.
Yeah, I would say so. I think they will be A-okay. We all have so many drains to cover. If you're paying a couple more cents on top, people are going to be just fine with that.
Yeah. And one potential bonus, at least for the US, is that some economists say if Shein and Temu are facing these problems with import fees, they'll build more warehouses. They already have warehouses here in the US. As you're mentioning, they have presence outside of China. They'll maybe build more of them. Could be more jobs at least. So there you go.
We'll take it. We'll take whatever we can get, including, again, just all the drain covers.
That is a must. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We have a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter, so if you're not subscribed, please go get signed up at thehustle.co/email. And if you really love us, then please follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily, and we'll catch you next week.
New year, new resolutions. And this year on the Best Idea Yet podcast, we're revealing the untold origin stories of the products you're obsessed with. And we promise you have never heard these before.
Ever wonder how the iconic Reese's peanut butter cup was invented? Because it was by accident. H.B. Reese, a former frog salesman,
True story,
stumbled upon the idea after accidentally burning a batch of peanuts.
Classic.
Proving that sometimes our best ideas arise from what seem like our biggest mistakes.
And Jack, did you know there's a scientific explanation why humans crave that surprising combo of peanut butter and chocolate?
I didn't, but it sounds delicious.
It is delicious.
So, if you're looking to get inspired and creative this year, tune in to the Best Idea Yet. You can find us on the Wondery app or wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you're looking for more podcasts to help you start this year off right, check out New Year, New Mindset on the Wondery app. Who knows? Your next great idea could be an accident that you burned. This is Nick.
And this is Jack.
And we'll see you on the Best Idea Yet.